Welcome to the SnowMirror demo video. In this session, we'll learn more about SnowMirror, the smart data replication tool for ServiceNow. We'll start with a handful of slides explaining what SnowMirror is, how it works, and what are the typical use cases. And then we'll continue with a live demo to actually see how SnowMirror works in a real environment. My name is Pavel Milder, and I am a ServiceNow architect, mainly focusing on ServiceNow integrations, data models, and the ServiceNow platform as such. And I am the SnowMirror creator and product manager. I am with Guide Vision. We are actually one of the biggest European consultancies for ServiceNow with 300 plus ServiceNow consultants. And our core business is implementing ServiceNow, especially for large enterprises here in Europe. And SnowMirror is one of our products, which is coming from our experience with those big implementations. We've got hundreds of SnowMirror users globally, including many companies from Fortune 500. And we've been developing this tool since 2014. And this is a fully certified tool from ServiceNow. Now, let's have a look at the typical challenges that we see with big ServiceNow implementations, but not only big, but with most of them. And the number one challenge is an existing or corporate reporting platform, such as Power BI, Tableau, Cognos, SAP Objects, and many more. Or it might be a more advanced and more complex environment with a data warehouse or a data lake. And the challenge is how to extract the data from the cloud ServiceNow environment to an on-premise or the private cloud environment, and how to work with the data outside of the ServiceNow platform. Another typical challenge is how to archive ServiceNow data, especially if ServiceNow databases grow really big and if the ServiceNow customers are growing out of their database licenses, ServiceNow database licenses. And that's why we have created SnowMirror, a smart data replication tool for ServiceNow. And here you can actually see what it is. On the left-hand side, here on the picture, you can see your ServiceNow cloud instance. And on the right-hand side, this rectangle here is your environment. It could be an on-premise environment, or it could be your private cloud, Azure, AWS, whatever you have. The key takeaway here is that SnowMirror is a small piece of software running in your environment on one of your servers, pulling the data from ServiceNow and then storing it to your own database, such as Microsoft SQL Server or Oracle. And once you have the data locally, you can work with the data in your network without actually going over the internet every time you need to access ServiceNow data. This is basically a design pattern called reporting database, or you can call it a replica or an operational data store. As you will see in the demo, with SnowMirror, you can define the tables you need from ServiceNow, you can define the fields, and also you can set up a schedule how often to update the data. And SnowMirror keeps the tables in sync. Now, what are the typical use cases, what we see in our large user base, and how our users leverage SnowMirror in their environments? Definitely the number one use case is reporting and BI. And there are two approaches. You can either replicate selected tables to a mirror database, or let's say to a reporting database, and then build the dashboards directly on top of the database, simply joining the tables, building a data model, and then creating dashboards. Or you can treat the mirror database as a staging area and then create additional downstream processes, ETL jobs, to load the data further to your data warehouse or to your data lake. Another popular use case is data archiving. In this case, you replicate selected archive or even live tables, And then you can simply delete the old records from ServiceNow, but keep them on premise for auditing or reporting purposes again. Additional popular use case, especially for ServiceNow architects, is directing read-only integrations to the database, to the Replica database, instead of the live ServiceNow instance. ServiceNow architects typically don't like making their instance an integration hub. So if you have many systems or applications that just need to read incidents or CMDB data, you simply connect those tools to a database instead of the ServiceNow instance. And then we've got additional smaller use cases, as you can see here, such as business continuity, disaster recovery, data residency, or other compliance issues, or even small local backups. Now let's have a look at the SnowMirror architecture. This is an extended picture of the last one. And again, you can see your ServiceNow cloud instance here, and then your environment on the right-hand side. We typically recommend our users, or especially new users, to start with a proof of concept. So in order to make SnowMirror up and running, you basically need to do 3 things. The step number 1 is installing SnowMirror somewhere. SnowMirror is a Java-based application, so you can install it either on a Windows server as a Windows service or on a Linux machine as a Linux daemon. So that's step number 1. Step number 2 is connecting it to a ServiceNow instance. The good news for you is that SnowMirror uses the out-of-the-box ServiceNow API, by default the REST API. And the good news is that you don't have to install anything in your ServiceNow instance. The only thing you need is just a user account with sufficient privileges to download the tables you need. So usually you start with an admin account for evaluation purposes, replicating one of your sub-production instances. But of course, for production use, you would create a dedicated user with a dedicated read-only role. And the last step, step number 3, is creating an empty database. This is a key takeaway here. The database is not part of the product. This is your own database. And you create an empty DB in your existing database infrastructure. We support multiple engines, including Oracle, Microsoft SQL Server, MySQL, Postgre, even the cloud-managed databases such as Azure SQL or Snowflake or Redshift. The key message here is you create an empty DB and SnowMirror manages the schema for you. It creates, alters, and drops tables according to its configuration. So let's imagine if you want to bring down an incident table, SnowMirror reads the incident table structure from ServiceNow, and then it creates the very same table in the mirror database, and then it loads the data all the way down to the database. And that's it. Once you have the data in the DB, you just connect your reporting tool using the traditional database way, the database connector, and you produce your dashboards out of the product. So what we are providing here is the replication software. Now, usually the first question that we are getting is, how does SnowMirror impact our performance? How does it impact our existing instance? And there are 2 key architecture principles with SnowMirror impacting performance. The number 1 is that SnowMirror performs incremental loads. So of course, for the first time it runs, it downloads all the data. However, every subsequent run is a delta load, downloading just the new records, the updated ones, and it removes the deletes. So even for big ServiceNow instances, let's say the hourly increments are just a few thousand records. What is the biggest magic under the hood is here on the picture. SnowMirror works on a lower level with ServiceNow. ServiceNow is composed out of so-called nodes. These are basically application servers running the ServiceNow application. And SnowMirror identifies individual nodes and then it downloads the data concurrently from all of them. So this is the way how SnowMirror scales, even with the biggest ServiceNow environments. And it's also the way how it balances the load through the ServiceNow instance, so the end users are not affected. So now that was my last slide, and now jump to a live SnowMirror demo. I've got a SnowMirror installation on my laptop. So let me log into the SnowMirror user interface. And let me show you how the tool is actually configured. So now if I go to settings here, you can see that I've got a ServiceNow connection. So the configuration is very straightforward. This is just a demo instance or a partner instance that I'm connecting to. I'm using an admin account and a REST API. So that's the source configuration. On the database side, I've got a Microsoft SQL Server on my laptop, and the database name is SnowMirror. So that's how it works. Now, the most important screen of the tool is here. Basically, this is the list of tables that are being replicated, or you can say it's a list of jobs. We call them synchronizations. As you can see, I already have some assets, change requests, incidents. I even replicate the sys audit table, one of the most important system tables. You can always see what is the replication status. Since this is a scheduled tool, you've got the next run as well as the last run, also how long it took. And this is a progress bar. If the run finishes, you can see that I've got 7,000 new tasks, for example, here. Now, let me create a new synchronization for you. It's, again, very straightforward by pressing this new sync button here. And the first step is to select a table. Now, SnowMirror reads your ServiceNow system dictionary, so all of the tables are supported, including custom tables, including system tables, scoped applications, all of the ServiceNow modules. SnowMirror is a platform-level tool. So let me just select a CMDB CI table. This is one of the most popular tables in the platform from the configuration management. And if I go next, there is a screen with a couple of options, such as I can rename the target table, I can filter data, I can set up certain algorithms here. But the most important task is to select the fields I need. So of course, in most of the cases, you just select all of the fields available like that. But let's say for the demo purposes here, I just select a smaller set of fields for you. Let's say asset tag. Assigned to is a reference to another table. This might be interesting. Cost is a number. And I can also filter the fields. So let's say serial number is another one. So as you can see here, 4 fields plus a primary key. Now we might use one of the SnowMirror features here. So this is a reference assigned to, and by default, you would be getting just a foreign key. But there is a ServiceNow feature called display values, where you can either replace the foreign key with a display value, or you can have both. So let me select both, which gives us additional column with a display value. You can always estimate how long it might take to download such a table by counting the records here. So as you can see, I've got a message saying that I've got 70,000 plus records. And the last step for me is to schedule the delta loads. We've got several options here. I can have daily snapshots several times a week, or I can even achieve near real-time scenarios. So of course you can have updates, let's say every 10 minutes, or you can have an hourly setup. So let me create an update every hour, starting with midnight, every 60 minutes, like that. And that's it. Now, as you can see, I've got a new job starting in about 15 minutes, but of course I can trigger the load manually like that. So now this is important. What happens now, SnowMirror reads the CMDB-CI table structure. It creates the table in our SQL server here, and then it loads all the data for the first time. It is called an initial load. SnowMirror pages through the data. So as you can see here in the progress bar, the size of a page is 1000 records, downloading from multiple nodes. So I've got 70 plus 1000 records in about 30 seconds here. So now it is ready. And if I run the job once again, now it performs just the delta load. So now it fetches just the changes since the last successful run. Something is really happening in my instance. So I already have 23 updates in my table, and that's it. So it is much faster, the delta runs, than the initial load. Now to finish the example, let me switch to the Microsoft Studio. And as you can see here, I've got a SnowMirror database. And if I refresh the list of tables for you, you can see here that SnowMirror has created a new table called CMDB-CI. If I select the data, then you can see that I've got those columns that we selected together. Let me scroll to some real data here. So I've got asset tags, I've got foreign keys to the sysuser table, I've got cost as a number and a serial number. By the way, the data types of these columns are real data types because we've got a mapping between ServiceNow data types and Microsoft data types in this case. You are also getting the original primary key, which is necessary for the joins. And now here we are also getting the display values. So this is a dv underscore assigned to. This is a display value column for the assigned to column. You are also getting these artificial timestamps, mirror created on and mirror updated on, when the record was downloaded from ServiceNow for the first time and when it was updated for the last time. This is extremely useful for additional downstream processing like ETL jobs for your data warehouse. And that's it. This is SnowMirror in a nutshell. Perhaps my last slide here is the licensing model. We've got 3 plans. The licensing is based on per installation model, which means if you have just one SnowMirror replicating your production instance, you need just one license. We provide all the sub-production and testing and development SnowMirror licenses for free. The license includes all the new versions, patches, and security updates. We guarantee that it stays compatible with the latest ServiceNow releases. And it also includes our support. As you can see here, you can download a free trial. This is the recommended approach to start with a proof of concept in your own environment. Now that's it for the SnowMirror demo. Thank you for joining demo. And of course, if you need more information, please go to our microsite, snow-mirror.com. There you can download SnowMirror as well as the free license. And if you need our support, please go to our support portal, support.snow-mirror.com. And our support team is ready to help you out. We even support our evaluating users, so please feel free to contact us.